On Christmas Eve, 1945, the Sodder family home in Fayetteville, West Virginia, was consumed by a roaring fire. The blaze destroyed the house, leaving only the charred remains of what once was the Sodder family residence. George and Jennie Sodder, along with their 4 surviving children, escaped the inferno. However, their 5 other children, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jennie Jr., and Betty, were believed to have perished in the fire. But the story didn't end there. As the fire raged, George and Jennie watched helplessly from a distance, their attempts to re-enter the house thwarted by the intense heat and flames. When the fire was finally extinguished, the remains of the house were examined, but no bodies were found. The authorities were baffled, as the intense heat of the fire should have left some trace of the children's remains. The official conclusion was that the children had died in the fire, but George and Jennie were not convinced. Over the years, the Sodder parents received mysterious phone calls and letters suggesting that their children might still be alive. In 1949, an anonymous letter arrived, claiming that the children had been kidnapped and were being held in a nearby town. The letter included a photograph of 5 children who resembled the Sodder children, sparking renewed hope for George and Jennie. They investigated, but the leads led nowhere. The Sodder family became obsessed with finding their missing children. They conducted their own investigations, including hiring private detectives, but the case remained cold. They even built a new house, but their grief never waned. Over the years, they reported several eerie encounters, such as seeing suspicious strangers in their area and receiving threatening phone calls. One particularly chilling incident occurred in 1950, when George and Jennie saw a group of young people in a passing car who bore a striking resemblance to their missing children. The car sped away before they could approach. Despite these unsettling experiences, the Sodders never found definitive proof of what happened to their children. To this day, the disappearance of the Sodder children remains a mystery. Theories abound, including the possibility that the children were kidnapped by an organized crime ring or that they had been killed by someone with a grudge against the Sodder family. Some even suggest that the fire was deliberately set to cover up a more sinister crime. The story of the Sodder children remains one of the most perplexing and haunting missing persons cases in American history. The image of the charred remnants of their home, the mysterious evidence of their possible survival, and the unanswered questions continue to cast a long shadow over the Sodder family's tragic story. As the years passed, George and Jennie Sodder clung to hope, even as the relentless passage of time seemed to close in on their quest for answers. In the late 1950s, as they approached their senior years, they continued to receive disturbing hints and sightings that suggested their children might still be alive. One such instance occurred in 1952, when Jennie received a cryptic phone call from an unfamiliar number. The caller, with a distorted voice, simply said, "Your children are alive, but they'll never come home." Determined to uncover the truth, George and Jennie expanded their investigation into areas beyond West Virginia. They traveled to nearby states, following leads and speaking with anyone who might have information. During this period, they began to receive anonymous letters and unsettling photographs that seemed to show children who resembled their missing ones. One of the most unsettling leads came from a woman who claimed she had seen the Sodder children in a nearby town. But when George and Jennie followed up, they found nothing. The woman had vanished, leaving no trace. The uncertainty and eerie coincidences began to take a toll on their health, but they never wavered in their resolve. In 1968, more than 20 years after the fire, George and Jennie had an encounter that would chill even the most skeptical. They were contacted by a retired FBI agent who had been working on a separate case involving organized crime in the region. The agent claimed that he had uncovered a link between the crime syndicate and the mysterious disappearance of children in the area, including the Sodder case. Although the agent did not have concrete evidence linking the Sodder children directly to the syndicate, his revelations suggested that the fire might have been a cover-up for a more sinister plot. Further compounding the mystery, in 1967, a local newspaper reported that a man who had been involved in the region's organized crime had been heard bragging about a great heist involving children, suggesting that the Sodder children might have been abducted and sold. The Sodders' last act of defiance was to place a large billboard along U.S. Route 16, the road leading to their old home. The billboard featured photographs of the missing children, alongside the question, "What happened to our children?" It remained up for years, a public reminder of the family's heartache and the unanswered questions. In 1969, George Sodder passed away, still convinced that his children were out there somewhere. Jennie continued to fight for answers until her death in 1989. Despite their efforts, the case remained unsolved, leaving behind a legacy of speculation and dread. Today, the story of the Sodder children continues to captivate and unsettle. The house where the fire occurred has long since been demolished, but the site remains a place of haunting curiosity. Visitors and paranormal investigators have reported strange occurrences and unexplained phenomena in the area, fueling ongoing speculation about what truly happened on that fateful Christmas Eve. The mystery of the Sodder children is a haunting reminder of how a seemingly straightforward tragedy can evolve into something far more sinister. It underscores the chilling reality that sometimes the truth is obscured by layers of deception, fear, and unanswered questions. Years after the death of George and Jennie Sodder, their children's disappearance became the subject of renewed interest among amateur sleuths and conspiracy theorists. The case's mystique grew as new theories emerged, each more unsettling than the last. Among these, a particularly chilling theory suggested that the Sodder children had been kidnapped by a network of criminal families involved in human trafficking. In the early 2000s, a documentary filmmaker named Laura Bennett took an interest in the Sodder case. Her research led her to uncover a series of disturbing coincidences and connections. During her investigation, she came across an old ledger in a forgotten archive detailing transactions between known criminal figures in the 1940s. The ledger contained entries that hinted at the possible sale of children, with one entry suspiciously close to the date of the Sodder fire. Laura's investigation also revealed that the fire department's initial report might have been tampered with. Several documents were missing, and eyewitness accounts from neighbors suggested that the fire seemed to have been set in a manner that was unusually precise. Some even claimed to have seen a group of men near the Sodder house before the blaze began. In a particularly eerie twist, Laura found an old photograph in a private collection that depicted a group of children in a setting remarkably similar to descriptions of the Sodder home. The photograph, which had been taken in the 1940s, showed children who bore an uncanny resemblance to the Sodder siblings. Laura tracked down the source of the photo, a reclusive man in his 80s living in a small town. The man revealed that the children in the photograph had been sold to wealthy families across the country. However, he couldn't confirm their identities or their current whereabouts. Compelled by these revelations, Laura organized a team of investigators to follow up on the leads. They visited towns and cities where the criminals from the ledger were known to operate. Their journey took them across the United States, from bustling cities to remote rural areas. In each place, they encountered people who had their own eerie stories and mysterious connections to the Sodder case. In 2005, a breakthrough came when Laura's team interviewed a former mobster who had been involved in organized crime during the 1940s. The man, now in his late 80s, claimed that he had been present at a secret meeting where the Sodder children were discussed. He described a plan to take the children from their home and use them for illegal activities. He also mentioned that the children were sold to high-profile individuals to be used as pawns in various schemes. Laura's team tried to corroborate his story, but the mobster's claims were difficult to verify. However, his detailed descriptions of events and names linked back to some of the individuals in the old ledger. Despite this tantalizing lead, the trail went cold, and the truth about what happened to the Sodder children remained elusive. The case gained a new layer of intrigue when Laura's documentary aired on television. Viewers were captivated by the haunting images of the fire's aftermath and the chilling accounts of those who had lived through the events. The documentary sparked renewed public interest and led to a resurgence of amateur investigators and ghost hunters visiting the site of the old Sodder home. Some visitors reported strange occurrences, inexplicable noises, shadows moving in the dark, and a pervasive sense of being watched. Paranormal investigators claimed to capture evidence of ghostly apparitions and unexplained phenomena, adding to the mystery and fear surrounding the case. In 2023, a new development emerged when a previously unknown letter was discovered in the archives of a local historical society. The letter, dated 1946, was from an anonymous writer claiming to have seen the Sodder children alive in a distant state. The letter described a secretive location and hinted at a cover-up involving influential figures. Though the letter was never conclusively linked to the Sodder case, it reignited public interest and speculation. The story of the Sodder children endures as a haunting enigma. The unanswered questions, the eerie coincidences, and the chilling theories create a web of intrigue that continues to captivate and unsettle those who delve into its dark corners. As the years pass, the mystery remains, a chilling reminder of how a single tragedy can leave behind a legacy of fear and unanswered questions that span generations. The resurgence of interest in the Sodder case in the early 2020s brought with it new developments and unexpected twists. Following the broadcast of Laura Bennett's documentary, a flood of amateur sleuths, true crime enthusiasts, and even a few self-proclaimed psychics began investigating the case, each with their own theories and clues. One particularly intriguing lead emerged from a psychic medium named Eleanor Blackwood, who claimed to have communicated with the spirits of the Sodder children. Eleanor's sessions were broadcast live, drawing large audiences who were captivated by her detailed descriptions of the children's final moments. According to Eleanor, the spirits revealed that the children had been taken to a secluded location and were being held captive by a secretive group. Her visions suggested that the children were still alive but were kept hidden to avoid detection. To add credence to her claims, Eleanor provided coordinates to an abandoned farm in rural Kentucky. The farm was known for its historical ties to organized crime, and the property had been mysteriously purchased by an anonymous buyer shortly after the Sodder fire. Intrigued, Laura Bennett and her team decided to investigate. When they arrived at the farm, they discovered several unsettling clues. Old, rotting furniture and discarded personal items suggested that the property had been used in the past, but had been abandoned for decades. In one of the outbuildings, they found a hidden compartment containing a collection of photographs, some of which depicted children who bore a striking resemblance to the Sodder siblings. However, the photographs were too faded to make a definitive identification. Further investigation revealed that the property had been under surveillance by local law enforcement for years due to its connections with criminal activities. While the police had never found evidence directly linking the property to the Sodder case, they had noted suspicious activity and unexplained disappearances in the area. In 2024, the story took another chilling turn when a team of historians and forensic experts conducted a ground-penetrating radar scan of the property. Their goal was to search for any signs of hidden graves or concealed artifacts. The scan revealed several anomalies beneath the soil, areas that appeared to have been disturbed recently. The discovery prompted a more thorough excavation of the site. While no human remains were found, the excavation uncovered a series of underground tunnels and hidden rooms. Some of the tunnels led to an old, disused mine shaft. In the depths of the mine, investigators found remnants of old documents and personal items that hinted at a secret network involved in child trafficking. The most disturbing find was a collection of old ledger books similar to the ones Laura had found years earlier. The ledgers contained names, dates, and locations, along with references to various activities involving children. The entries were cryptic and incomplete, leaving much to speculation. Despite these new discoveries, the true fate of the Sodder children remained elusive. The anomalies and hidden rooms added weight to the theory that the children had been abducted and hidden by a criminal network, but concrete evidence linking them to the Sodder case was still lacking. The case of the Sodder children continued to fascinate and unsettle. Paranormal investigators and true crime enthusiasts flocked to Fayetteville, eager to explore the ghostly remnants of the past. The old site of the Sodder home became a locus of ghost tours and midnight vigils, with visitors reporting strange occurrences, including ghostly apparitions and unexplained sounds. In a final, eerie twist, a mysterious figure appeared at the site of the old Sodder home in 2025. The figure, cloaked in shadows, was seen digging in the overgrown yard. When approached by curious onlookers, the figure vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a chilling sense of unfinished business. The mystery of the Sodder children remains unresolved, a haunting enigma that continues to defy explanation. The ongoing investigations, eerie discoveries, and ghostly encounters keep the story alive, a chilling reminder of how the past can cast long and unsettling shadows on the present. The story of the Sodder children serves as a stark reminder of the many mysteries that lie buried beneath the surface, waiting for the light of day to reveal their secrets. Each new development only deepens the intrigue and adds to the chilling legacy of the Sodder case. As the years passed, the Sodder case continued to captivate public imagination. The chilling discoveries at the Kentucky farm and the eerie encounters reported by visitors had only fueled further speculation and investigation. The search for answers took on a new urgency when a prominent investigative journalist, Jake Morales, became involved in the case. Jake, known for his tenacity and dedication to uncovering the truth behind unsolved mysteries, was drawn to the Sodder case after seeing the renewed interest and unsettling revelations. He began his investigation by revisiting old leads and exploring new ones. His research focused on connections between the Sodder case and other missing children's cases from the same era, hoping to uncover a broader pattern. In his research, Jake stumbled upon a lead that connected the Sodder case to a notorious crime family, the Lombardi Syndicate. The Lombardis had a history of involvement in child trafficking and had been linked to various disappearances in the 1940s. According to Jake's sources, the syndicate was known for relocating stolen children to high-profile families across the country. Jake traveled to cities where the Lombardi Syndicate had operated and interviewed former associates and law enforcement officials who had investigated the syndicate. He learned that the syndicate had used various tactics to avoid detection, including staging elaborate cover-ups and destroying evidence. One particularly chilling lead came from a retired FBI agent who had once investigated the Lombardi Syndicate. The agent revealed that, according to confidential sources, the syndicate had a hidden compound in the Appalachian Mountains, not far from Fayetteville. This compound was rumored to have been used for holding abducted children and other illegal activities. Determined to uncover more, Jake organized a search team to investigate the compound. They faced numerous challenges, including difficult terrain and signs of recent activity that suggested the compound was still in use. Despite the obstacles, the team managed to enter the compound and found several disturbing items: old records, photographs, and even remnants of children's clothing. Among the records, they discovered a ledger that appeared to detail transactions involving children, including names and dates that matched the age and description of the Sodder children. Some entries included coded messages, hinting at secret relocations and hidden identities. The most unsettling find was a series of photographs depicting children in what appeared to be an underground facility. The facility's design and layout were consistent with descriptions from previous investigations into the syndicate's activities. While the photographs were not conclusive evidence, they added weight to the theory that the Sodder children had been held at this location. Jake's findings were submitted to the authorities, leading to a renewed investigation into the Lombardi Syndicate. The case garnered widespread media attention, with new leads and theories emerging daily. Despite the increased scrutiny, the complex network of the syndicate made it challenging to locate definitive evidence or identify the children. In a surprising twist, in late 2022, a breakthrough came when an anonymous tipster contacted Jake, claiming to have information about a woman who had raised one of the Sodder children. According to the tipster, the woman was a member of a high-profile family and had recently passed away, leaving behind a box of documents and photographs related to her adopted child. Jake and his team tracked down the box and found a collection of documents that included adoption records, personal letters, and photographs. Among the items was a birth certificate that bore a striking resemblance to one of the missing Sodder children. The documents suggested that the child had been adopted under a different name by a wealthy family. Further investigation revealed the identity of the adopted child, who was now an adult living under a new name. After contacting this individual, Jake learned that they had been raised with no knowledge of their biological past and had no recollection of the events described by Jake. However, the individual agreed to undergo a DNA test to confirm their identity. The DNA results provided a shocking confirmation. The individual was indeed related to the Sodder family. This revelation led to a series of interviews and emotional reunions, but the full story of what had happened to the Sodder children remained incomplete. As of 2024, The Sodder case remains one of the most haunting and unresolved mysteries of the 20th century. The investigation into the Lombardi syndicate and the search for the remaining missing children continue, with new leads and theories emerging regularly. The legacy of the Sodder children endures as a chilling reminder of the enduring shadows cast by unresolved tragedies and the relentless quest for truth. The ongoing saga of the Sodder case demonstrates how deep and complex a mystery can become, with each new revelation adding another layer to the haunting story. The search for answers remains a testament to the enduring power of unresolved mysteries to captivate and unsettle.